Hello everyone and welcome to something very special here on Experience Kills. Today I am going to be bringing you an exclusive hands-on preview of Metro Exodus. I spent about 5 or 6 hours playing this the other day at a small event in London, and I've brought with me my co-creator Richard, who's also a massive fan of the Metro series, to ask me some questions and have a little chat about some Metro fun. Hi Rich.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. Good mate. I'm excited to hear about the game. It's a shame I couldn't make it to the event with you, but
I would have loved you to have been there, man. I'm excited to tell you about this. I mean, it's the situation of if you haven't pre-ordered this already, I think by the time Richard and by the time listeners you've listened to me tell you how awesome this game is, you're gonna wanna pre-order this game. It blew me away with the changes that they've made and how they have blown out the whole kind of concept of the Metro game and experience. It was super cool. So first of all, I want to mention that I was able to experience 3 big chunks of Metro Exodus, which kind of focus on the spring, the summer, and the autumn sort of time periods of the game. But it's important for me to mention that I didn't get to see any of the kind of wraparound story or narrative or really much character development in this 5 or 6 hour previews. I really just got to delve into these quasi-open worlds and experience the gameplay in a really visceral way. However, no story, and that's kind of good because I wouldn't want to spoil it anyway, and I'm glad I didn't get spoiled because I'm really looking forward to playing this game when it's released and for review and things like that. So, like I said, 3 big open worlds focusing on these different sort of time periods, and God, this game is good looking. Like, I can't even begin. They have really stepped up. It's been quite a few years since Last Light came out, and being able to step out from the tunnels has given the developers 4A a chance to show off their artistic capabilities, and it doesn't disappoint. The whole hands-on experience I played on a Xbox One X development kit, which meant there were some stability issues, but I don't think that's game related. I think that's more this slightly iffy hardware situation. But yeah, this game has taken Metro and is moving it into sort of a survival crafting based experience, but don't let that worry you too much. Richard, what does that say to you when I say to you survival crafting? Does it scare you?
well, it kind of covers. I've written a few questions for you, and that kind of covers 2 of them already. So this might be a quick show. But I was going to ask you about how it feels compared to the other games, with them being sort of last generation. Now it's been a long break since Metro last had a fresh installation. Not counting the sort of up-res re-releases, but it's a long time, isn't it?
Well, if you think about how long we've had the generation now, so we're into like 5 years of the generation, and this is the first time we've got a Metro iteration on the current generation of hardware, which has been built from the ground up for the PS4 and the Xbox One. So, and of course current generation PC hardware, and boy did it look good on PC as well. I did actually look at a bit of that, but predominantly I played on X, and so they've obviously decided to really move the kind of gameplay forward, getting it into these quasi-open worlds. And I call them quasi-open worlds because it's not Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it's not Mafia 3, it's not Red Dead 2 size. However, it's a big enough world in which you feel there is plenty to explore, plenty to poke around in and investigate. And because they've moved towards this sort of crafting-based survival element gameplay, you're going to want to look into every nook and cranny to find those resources that you need to craft new bullets, to make new filters, to build new med kits, to repair your gas mask when it takes damage during combat, to give yourself that kind of leg up in this sort of more emergent type of gameplay that you're going to get. Because what I did think was really smart was that while we've gone into these open environments, 4A have done a great job of bringing you back down underground into tunnels whenever it made sense as well. So you still have that classic claustrophobic, oppressive, dark Metro gameplay is in there as well. So don't worry, it's not all airy-fairy, light and happy. It's still really tense and really exciting to play.
They kind of had to do that. That is the motif of Metro, isn't it? The actual Metro system itself. So they kind of have to have that in there. But yeah, it's good to hear that they've opened it up. It sounds like it does take advantage of current gen stuff, and it's bigger. But more interesting, I was going to ask you how it fits into the series, because the first 2 games are quite different. The first one had more of a survival aspect to it with the replaceable mask filters and the sort of reliance.
I mean, that's in Last Light. That's still in there.
I know it's in both, but there was much more of a focus on it in the first game, and it had much more of a feel that this is something you had to survive rather than sort of work your way through the story. It was much more pedestrian in the second game. Not as a criticism, but it was much more of a traditional FPS. So does this feel more like the first?
I think that is a fair criticism of Last Light. Last Light felt like a reaction to the first game. It felt like them swinging too hard back towards the more, like you said, the more traditional FPS, the more kind of arenas, of combat nature, the more kind of just focusing on blowing up as many enemies as possible and shooting as many monsters as you possibly could. Yes, this does feel much more like it's back in touch with the original Metro 2033 game. Yeah, absolutely it does. The fact that you are doing this crafting, and don't worry, the crafting system is actually really streamlined. It basically is 2 materials, chemicals and spare parts, which you will use to just mash together in a very simple interface to create the bullets and to create the modifications for your weapons. And it just means that the pace of the game is slowed down a little bit from Last Light, that you are going to be going into these combat encounters, that you are going to sort of get through them, but then you're going to pause, do some crafting, reevaluate your situation. This isn't a game with a super busy HUD, for example. It's not covered in icons. Everything is done in world. You have a map and a compass, which you will be using a great deal in these open worlds, and you can kind of set your own objectives. You might get markers on the map saying there's something here you might want to look at, but you can do it in any order, in any way you want to. So it's really, the game is at your own pace, and the game feels bloody massive. So in these 3 environments, I got the Volga, the Caspian and the Tiger. Each one felt like way bigger than any of the different environments you would have had in Last Light and Metro, and in addition to that, it feels like a real big area that you want to really delve into and really explore. One of the things I noticed, especially in the Caspian, is that there's drivable vehicles. You get to go around in this sort of like beaten up old minivan and like drive around, completely where you want to go, how you want to go. So it's not on rails or anything like that, which I thought was really cool. I mean, talking about rails, there is still a big F-off train in this, which is kind of like your mobile base, and the idea is that I think you're trying to settle a peaceful kind of civilization outside of the Metro, but I'm kind of guessing there was very little story in what I got to play, very intentionally. So to talk about a little bit more about the worlds, the Volga is this kind of snowy, desolate, earlier area of the game. The Caspian is what we got to see a lot of, and I believe it was shown for the first time at this event, which is obviously based in the Caspian Sea region of Russia. And this is desert where the sea has retreated from all the nuclear war, and it's just broken ships and hulks and lots of rusted, dilapidated beauty. In this environment, I got to explore an underground military bunker, which was where a lot of that claustrophobia came from that I remember from the original game, with like mutated rad sort of radiated spiders, and like using light very much as a gameplay mechanic in that environment as well, and it was really cool. But then my favorite world has got to be the Taiga region, because the Taiga region is this beautiful lush vegetation. At this point in the game, you've lost all your gear, your weapons, and you're just down to a pneumatic crossbow, which I think is going to be one of the best breakout guns of 2019. So much fun to use, just really visceral. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that the gun customization system is back in this as well, and it's taken to the 10th level. There are so many customizations you can do on every weapon. He even mentioned in one of the tooltips I saw on the screen, feel free to carry 2 of the same guns, because you can absolutely customize them in different directions. So you could make cool. One version of a gun into a sniper rifle and another one into sort of up close SMG, if you like, just from the amount of mods that you can put on it.
Did it feel meaningful? I mean, we've had games like that before. I mean, Borderlands is the sort of standout franchise where you can customize weapons, but that was to more than the 10th degree. It was just almost infinite variations of guns, to the point that it felt meaningless. Do they feel personalized?
Borderlands was almost like a random number generator of weapon modifications, wasn't it? It just, this feels much more weighty and meaningful. Putting the difference between putting an IR scope or a 4X scope on a gun, the difference between putting a heavy barrel to a light barrel on the weapon, stocks, different types of magazines, different types of trigger systems, absolutely loads of customization options available, and it's just really good fun because there wasn't a lot of penalty for changing it either. I don't think there was any penalty. You can basically basically switch out mods once you've unlocked them by usually finding, for example, you kill an enemy, he'll drop his gun which has got its specific mods on it, and you can either pick up the gun or disassemble it, and then you have a chance of getting that mod added to your inventory of mods for that weapon.
Oh, cool.
And then you can then customize your own weapon with those loadouts. So there's just huge amounts of variety. It really felt the best it's ever felt. The actual shooting, the actual traversal in Metro Exodus, it feels really, really good. It's like clearly come on some way since Last Light. I mean, there's still that we're quite a small studio ambition and a little bit of iffiness to sometimes to the gunplay and the gameplay. Yeah. I did sometimes feel like, I'm pretty sure my crosshair was dead on that guy's head and it missed. So that's just a little bit of the vagaries. Perhaps you could chalk that up to the dilapidated nature of the weapons, because the weapons do get worn out.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, you could almost say that's what makes it more authentic, because even in the original games, when you couldn't really customize weapons in the same way that it sounds like you can now, they all felt homemade and sort of worn in weaponry. And they might go wrong, they might not be reliable. That was the whole thing about the Metro world, so I don't see that as a detractor at all.
So that is a mechanic in this. So your weapons will get muddy and dirty, and and it means they jam more often. It means it can throw off accuracy. It means, for example, you've got a reflex sight on your AK, and your AK is all muddy. You can't see through the reflex sight because it's all covered in shit. So it's like you have to go to a workbench and clean that stuff down and spend some resources to get it like brought back to a nice level. One of the things I found myself using a lot more in this was the pneumatic rifle, which I didn't use a lot in the other Metro games. The reason it's such... Fair enough. I personally didn't, because I always found I could get enough ammo, but in this game you can craft the ball bearings on the go, whereas you can only craft the normal ammunition at a workbench. So because you can craft the ball bearings on the go at any time using your backpack, I found myself much more likely to open up with that rifle than any of the others. Yeah. And when I had it modded out with a 10x scope and an extra sniper stock, and I'm pulling off these crazy headshots from halfway across the map and stuff, and dropping fills. What I really liked about this Metro is that you can play it stealthy again. You can play it at range, which I felt like you could do a lot more in 2033 than you could in Last Light. Like Last Light was much more up about medium range combat, getting in there, whereas this feels like you can choose your encounters and design them as to what fits your play style. I had such a good time playing this, Richard, honestly. I don't often sit down and play a video game for 5 hours straight, but I've wanted to play more today, and it really sucks that I can't. And it's just, I'm really excited to get my hands on the game proper and put some, it's got to be 30 hours, 40 hours, this campaign. Just judge if you want to do everything in the world and explore it. And there's so many ways of just dealing with every encounter. And then there's the morality choice system is in there as well. In the preview, I was basically assassinating everybody I could get my hands on. But obviously you don't have to do that. You can do non-lethal. So you can go up close and knock people out and stuff instead of actually shooting them. And there's just so much, people will sometimes surrender when you've killed a lot of their friends. Yeah. So you can choose to leave them alive or do what I did and stab them in the head. Of
course you did.
So that's
what you do.
Yeah. That's what I do. That's how I play games. Any final questions you wanted to add, Richard?
I had another. I'm not sure you can answer it because there's not any story-related stuff from what you've seen, from what you said. But I was wondering how it fits into the series, whether people will feel like it's accessible or whether they'll get much out of it if they've played the other games.
I think from what I could tell, this is going to work as a standalone because it's such a departure from the style of the first two games. I mean, story aside, which is what I played, the game feels like it could definitely work by itself, but at the same time, I imagine when all the story elements and the connecting tissue is in there, that's obviously going to be a very additive experience to the previous two titles as well. But it's such a departure on a train, sorry, I can't resist that, that I feel that that it will be a really fun experience even for newcomers to the franchise. Cool. But wait and see. I can't wait. The full release is next month, and I had so much fun playing this. I think it's going to be a real winner, this one.
Is it still just a single player campaign? And I say just as if that's some...
Yes.
Brilliant.
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, I don't mean to demean it by saying just a single player campaign, because I'd rather it was that, but it's rare these days.
I reckon it's a 30-40 hour massive single player campaign, and it feels like, for the first time ever in Metro, that when you've beaten this, you might well want to go back and do it again, because so many of the environments will give you so many different ways of playing through them, that you can really just keep experimenting. Like, it's awesome. It feels great. It looked amazing, and I just can't wait to see what the full thing is going to bring us. So yeah, that was my hands-on preview of Metro Exodus. Are we excited, Richard?
I'm really excited, to the point that I might have to spend money I don't have now and pre-order.
Yeah, so like, keep your eyes and your ears on Experience Kills, guys, because we'll have a full review of Metro Exodus in the coming weeks. And thank you very much for taking a listen and a watch to this particular Experience Kills video / podcast, however you might be enjoying it. Please head over to YouTube and like and subscribe the video, subscribe to the feed on iTunes, and yeah, why not even find us on Twitter and add us as there as well. And let's talk about Metro Exodus. So yeah, it's bye-bye from me.
And bye-bye from me.